feels fabulous for me, I have to say. I recently learned that really I think I've been in a composer in residence position with a professional orchestra for the longest that anyone has been with professional orchestras in Canada, specifically under that title of composer in residence. I think other orchestras have had composers for 6-7 years tops. This is great to have this long-term relationship, to develop relationships within the community, with our audience, with our donors and board members and musicians, and of course staff. And I think we've been able to accomplish a lot in this time, and I'm really proud of it. Well, in the pandemic, my role has certainly evolved to become more digitally focused, to do online presentations and live streaming of the orchestra. And quite frankly, people were asking us for this sort of thing before the pandemic, so it was about time anyway, expanded our skills, and so that's certainly one thing. And I have to say, in general, when I started my position, it was a little bit more private in that I was in smaller situations. So a lot of the time I would be in classrooms or working behind the scenes on a new music festival. But over the years, it has become increasingly public. Presentations like the Talk and Tea and, a number of different things in the community and education for all ages. And then some things really just happened kind of by accident. An example of that is the pre-concert talk. So when we were auditioning for our music directors, each of them had to give a pre-concert talk. So I was sitting in the audience waiting for that, and then I got a nudge from our executive director at the time to say, "You have to get on stage. This was left out of the candidates' schedule." So I had to do a surprise pre-concert talk. It was rather scary, I have to say, but I loved it as well. And ever since then, I've been doing the pre-concert talks. Apart from this, we also have a composer fellowship program, which has been developed in the last few years. So that's certainly a more recent addition, as well as our student concert, where we have students bused to the hall for a concert just for them. So again, just in general, more private to more public over the decade. I certainly do. I wrote the hockey sweater just before I started here at the HPO in 2012. And at first the hockey sweater was done for family performances and student performances, but here at the HPO, as the executive director at the time, decided, you know what, this will work very well on a holiday concert. And I loved the idea because I always noticed that the adults got the jokes and the kids didn't so much. So I was waiting for the chance for this piece to be performed just for adults. And this is the first time it happened with the HPO. And I loved it. It was so much fun. It's still in, over 160 performances of the work by many different orchestras, my favorite performance that night at the HPO, because the audience was just so into it. They were laughing and cheering, and they were really part of the piece. They made it come alive. So that's a great memory for me. And then I'm also so pleased that the HPO recorded it later with Gemma conducting. My other favorite memory is The Mermaid and the Fisherman, that was premiered in opening night 2019 with soprano Stacey Dunlop and our very own Michael Fedician on trumpet with string orchestra and Gemma conducting. This was special because we had text written just for this about half-hour-long piece, and Mike was the fisherman, trumpet, actually playing the conch. He was often up in the hall playing down, almost like he's trying to connect with his wife who's on shore and he's out at sea. So that was a very special memory for me. Well, I dreamt up this composer fellowship program, and I was so delighted when the orchestra, all of this, the staff and musicians jumped on board and have really turned this into a tremendous program, which is just recognized across the country. And I started out as affiliate composer with the Toronto Symphony Orchestra, but I was really expected to be professional at that point. And I thought we could provide a service where we would help composers a little bit younger than that, potentially composers in graduate school, and teach them what it is to be a professional composer today, how to be a composer in residence, almost like the college version of what they were experiencing at university, things they're not taught at university. So we would look at, making perfect scores and parts, how to do public speaking, introduce pieces well, do education at all different levels, perhaps live streaming, and of course how to work with the orchestra, how rehearsals work, all of that, how to communicate with musicians and conductor well, and also how the arts organizations work. What are the different roles in the organization, and sort of head up sessions with the staff. So I suppose I'm a mentor and I run the program, but I'm so delighted that the whole team has jumped on board for this. Well, first of all, I think that anyone can come to an orchestra concert and get something out of it. But if they engage with us in different ways, if they come to presentations, if they come to the pre-concert talk and hear what the conductor and the soloist has to say and get a little bit of context about the music, they will find their way in the door. I think there can be some intimidation on behalf of audience members who feel like maybe they're not smart enough or they don't know enough in order to be able to get everything they can out of a program or even have a right to be there. I've heard that a number of times. But somehow being involved in our program, coming to the talk and tea, learning about these lives of composers, again, opens the door, makes these, helps audience members realize that these composers had their own struggles. Like, for example, if you learn about Beethoven's struggles, you can hear it in the music. If you learn how Tchaikovsky was trying to find his place, between the European composers and the Russian composers, you can hear that in the music. So there's something active to listen for. At the same time, I hope that audience members find it welcoming and inclusive and feel like they are one of our very important community members.